In this course, we are going to create a beautiful website together using just HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We'll also explore some fun and trending animation to make our site really pop. You'll see just how easy it is to achieve these amazing effects with a little bit of JavaScript magic. Let's get started and have some fun along the way. So let's dive in and understand how to create this magnetic hamburger menu. When you move the mouse close to this button, you will see this cool magnetic effect that pulls you in. Once you click on this hamburger menu, the menu appears with a delightful splash page transition. Inside this, you will find menu items with some rotating text that dances along with your mouse movement. On the home page, we added a spotlight hover effect and the scroll animation. Below that, we created a project section with an animated title, an image, and some details. Finally, we include a footer to finish the template. So let's get started and see how to make this amazing site with GSAP animation. So let's get started and see how to create this beautiful template. So I'm going to open our finished website first. And to create this template, I'm using Visual Studio Code editor. So I'm going to create here a folder called trend. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this folder. And then we create two files inside it. Inside index.html, we simply create the HTML file template, just like this. And then we specify name to this website, which is trend. That's upon you. You can specify any name to it. Now here we need to link the style.css file. So we call here // and then specify style.css file. Whenever you create a new site, make sure you document it well so anyone can understand your code. Let me just add here a comment to indicate we link the style.css file to this index.html. Just inside this body here, we create a header. So we copy this comment and paste that right here. Now we say here header section. So we start the header section right after this comment, right down here. So we create here a header and then specify here ID header. So I'm going to put the header section right inside this header tag. Just after that, I'm going to put all the main section inside a main tag. So we create here a tag called main and then specify ID to it, site main. So let's add a comment as well. So let's copy it, paste it down here. That indicates this is the starting of the main section. Just after that, let's save this file and I'm going to open this file in the live server. I'm going to right click here and say open with live server. If you don't have live server installed, just click on this extension tab and search for live server. You have to install this extension in your VS Code so you can follow along with me. Once you install it, you will find an option here. When you right click on the index.html file, you will find an option open with live server. Click on it. This is going to open this HTML file in the live server. You will notice this will open a browser and open this file in the live server. Now, whenever you make changes in this file, if I add here h1 heading tag with header, you will see we have the h1 tag right inside this. So we have the live server running on this port. Now, once we successfully created the HTML, let's back to the style.css. We need to first add the font family which we are using throughout this course. So very first, you need to search for Google Fonts and click on this Google Fonts website. And right from here, you can choose your favorite font. That's upon you. You can choose any font you want. I'm going to search for Park Sans, this font. I'm choosing this font just for this template. Click on Get Font and click on Get Embedded Code. And from here, you have to scroll up a little bit and click on this import statement. Right here, you have to copy this import statement. You don't have to copy this style tag. Just copy this import statement back to your template. And in the style.css, you have to paste this link as it is, just like this. And now let me add here a comment to indicate this is the font section. Just after that, once you have your font, you have to use it in the style.css. To use this font, you have to just say here font family, Parkins, and the fallback value. Now just close this and create another comment just down here. And we create a comment and say variables. We are going to create the CSS variable right down here. Let me remove this unwanted space just like this. And here we create variables. Now to create variables, you need to start with the root section. So we call here root, and inside root we create different variables. So we first create a white color which we are using in this course. So we say here white color just like this. Just after that, we add a semi-white color just like this. And then we add a black color and a light gray color just down here. Something like this. We're using these hex values to create these colors. Now we can use these variables throughout this style sheet to specify these hex values. Now just out of that, I also want to add a border color. So I'm going to create a variable called border color and then pass the value of it. So I'm going to pass 2 pixel border solid and then specify the color of it. Just out of that, let me specify text stroke. So we create here a variable called text stroke and then specify value to it. And just out of that, you can create a variable for the font family as well. So we can simply create a variable called primary font and then specify the font family which we are using throughout this course. So instead of using and specifying this value every time I specify font family, I can simply use this variable. Now, once we have all these variables which we are using in this template, let's create some global style. Now, what this global style is, we are using this global style to specify styling to the HTML elements. So first we select all the HTML elements using asterisk and then specify box sizing, which is border box. Then we remove all the margin. So we remove margin 0 and padding is going to be 0. So we remove all the padding and margin from all the HTML elements. Just for that, I'm going to select the body HTML tag and then specify height to it. The height is going to be 100 viewport height. Then we specify background color. The background color is going to be the variable color. So instead of using this hex value right inside this background color, I can use this black color, this black variable color. So we have to just specify here a var function, and inside that we can use a variable. So I'm using here black color. So now we have this hex value to this background color. Now just out of that, we specify color as well. And then we specify here var and specify the white color. Just out of that, the font family, I'm going to specify this primary font to this body. Now, just out of that, right down here, we also need a container. So we create a class called container, and the max width of this container is 1500 pixel. Let me save these changes first and back to the index.html. And then here we create a class called container. And inside that, I'm simply going to create a h1 heading tag with the text container. Now, let's save the changes on my finished website. And here you can see we have a container and a header. To the background, we have the black color. And to all my text, I have a white color. And you can notice I have the font family as well to all my text. Let me just toggle the window on the right side so you can see everything more clearly. And now let me back to the style.css. When I save the changes, you won't see anything here. But if I pass here a background color, suppose red, then you will see we have a container here with the maximum width of 1500. Now I want to center this. So to center this, I'm simply going to use here margin. Margin is going to 0, auto. The 0 is for top and bottom and auto is for left and right. So when you specify here auto, this is going to center this container. Now when I save the changes, you can see we have a center container. Now whenever I want anything to be center, I can use this container. Now let me get rid of this background color, save the changes and get rid of this div. Back to the style.css and then right down here, I'm going to create here img tag. Now, as you know, whenever you add image inside your template, it's going to take more than the viewport width. I want to specify maximum width to the image. So the maximum width of the image is 100% of the viewport. So I'm going to specify max width 100% and width 100%. The height is going to be auto, and I'm going to specify z index, which is -1. I'm going to put all the images behind everything. Let me save the changes. And now these are some basic global classes. We add more global classes right inside this section step by step. Just for now, I'm going to leave this as it is and just copy this comment. And just down here, I'm going to paste this comment and then specify here navigation hamburger. That's it. Now I'm going to put all the styling of the navigation hamburger menu right down here. Now let's save the changes back to the index.html and let's style this header. So very first we create this hamburger menu, this one, this sticky hamburger menu. So I'm going to get rid of this h1 heading tag, and right here I'm going to create a nav tag with the class nav menu. Now that's upon you. You can specify any name to this class. So I'm simply going to say here nav dot and then specify the class name. I'm going to have a nav tag with the class nav menu. Just out of that, right inside it, we create a container, and inside this container, I'm going to put the hamburger menu. So let's copy this comment and then specify that right up here. And this command is for Hamburger Button. So this is the starting point of the Hamburger Button. Now, inside this container, we create a class Hamburger, and we also specify ID to it, which is Hamburger. Now I can access this div with any of these options. I can access this with the class or with the ID. Inside this div, here we create two lines. So we pass here dot line and press tab. So this will create a div with the class line. I'm going to duplicate this, something like this. So to duplicate this line, just press Shift, Alt and down arrow. I'm going to create here a div with the class circle. Now you'll notice here in the finish up side, we have this circle, this white circle around these two lines. So back to the style.css right here. You have to first select the nav menu and then specify position relative to it. So if you pass position absolute, that position relates to this nav menu. Just out of that, let's select the hamburger menu, this one. You can select this with ID or with the class. I'm going to select this with ID. So we select hamburger and then we specify here display flex. Then we specify flex direction is going to be column and justify content center. Now this is going to center both these lines. This one, align items center, to center everything. Just out of that, I'm going to specify width 58 pixel and height is also going to be 58 pixel. Now this is the height of the circle, this circle height, right? Now just out of that, we specify here background color, and we are not using a hex value here. Instead we use a variable. So we call here white color 300 variable. When I save the changes, you can see we have here a square right at the top. Now just out of that, I'm going to specify border radius, which is 50%. So this will convert this square into circle. You can notice. And then I'm going to specify cursor pointer and make sure you specify here transition on transform 0.2 second. So I'm going to add a transition to this hamburger menu. And keep in mind, you have to make sure the hamburger menu is always at the top. So for that, you have to specify here z index value 999. So this will just make sure that the hamburger menu is always on the top of the content. I want to add here a position property, the position property of fix. I want to fix the position of this hamburger menu. So I'm going to say here position fix, top is going to be 50 pixel and right is going to be 50 pixel. Now Let's save the changes. And now, because I specify here right 50 pixel, we have this hamburger menu right here. Now, just out of that, once we style this hamburger, let's style these lines. This one. So inside this hamburger, we have these lines. So we first select this ID, hamburger, and inside that, we have line class. So we first specify width to it, which is 20 pixel, and height is going to be 2 pixel. I'm going to specify background color. So I'm going to specify a variable, a black color. Let me save the changes. So we'll see we have this line here. Just out of that, once you have this background color, we specify border radius 5 pixel to make the lines curve. And then we specify position to it. The position is going to be absolute, and transition is going to all 0.2 second. You can see we only have a one line here. This is because we specify here position absolute. Now, just out of that, once you've done that, let's scroll down and write down here. We select these lines as it is, and then select the nth child to select this division tag, this one. So to select this first div, we have to pass here a colon and say nth child 1. This select this first div, and then here we pass top property is going to be 58%. That's it. We change the position of the first div. When I save the changes, you can see we specify the position of this first div. Then we copy this statement, paste it down here, and this is going to be the nth child 2. And I'm going to select this second div, this one. And then we specify here top property 42%. When I save the changes, you can see we have 2 lines here. Just out of that, what I want, when I hover on this hamburger menu, I want to make a plus sign. So to do that, I want to rotate these lines. So what I can do is, I can simply copy this ID, pass here colon, and say hover. When I hover on this hamburger menu, I want to select these lines. So I'm going to first select the first division tag like this, and then specify here transform rotate minus 360 degree. I'm going to rotate the first div when I hover on it. And I save the changes, you can see this is going to rotate this first div. I'm going to specify here space and say translate y is going to be minus 5 pixel. Let me save the changes. I'm just going to change the position of the first div. Just out of that, let me copy this, paste it just down here. And this time I'm going to select the second div. To the second div, I'm going to specify here rotate for 50 degree with the plus 5 pixel translate x. And when I hover on this hamburger menu, you can see this is going to make a plus sign. Just out of that, what I want, when I click on this hamburger menu, I want to make a cross sign. But I only want the cross sign when I click on this hamburger menu. So for that, I can use the active class. So let's suppose if I copy this, paste it down here, and instead of hover, I'm going to add here dot active. So if I have an active class to this hamburger menu, only then I'm going to change the position of this transform. I'm going to copy this, paste it just down here, and specify here plus 45 degree, and specify here just a translate. So I can specify translate x and translate y property. So I'm going to specify here minus 3 pixel and minus 4 pixel, something like this. Let me save the changes. When you hover on it, you won't see anything because you don't have this class to the hamburger. So back to the index.html and add this class right here. If you pass this class, when I save the changes, you can see we have this cross line. Now let's do the same for the second line as well. So let's copy it, paste it here. This time I'm going to say nth child 2. Then I'm going to copy this statement, paste it right down here. And I'm going to say the degree is going to be minus 4, 5, 45 degree. And I'm going to leave everything as it is. And get rid of this minus sign right from the 4 pixel. Just like this. Now, when I save the changes, you can see this will make the cross sign here. I only want this cross sign when I have an active class to this hamburger menu. If I get rid of this active class, you can see I have this hover effect. And when I have this active class, I'm going to have this cross sign. Now I'm going to add this active class when we click on this hamburger menu, which we are going to do with the JavaScript. Just for now, just scroll down, just down here. Let's create a pointer, this cursor. You can notice we have a pointer here, a smooth circle following to this cursor. So let's create this. So back to the style.css and let me add here a comment and say circle pointer, and then I'm going to say here pointer circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back to the index.html. Just after this div, right down here, just after this hamburger menu, here we create a class called pointer circle. Now that's upon you. You can specify ID here as well. ID is going to be pointer circle. That's it. Save the changes, back to the style.css, and instead of class, let me use ID here, pointer circle. Just like this. Save this file, back to the style, and here you have to first specify position, which is fixed. Then you have to specify width 80 pixel, and height is also going to be 80 pixel, the size of the pointer. That's upon you. You can specify any size to this pointer. Just out of that, we specify border. Border is going to be the border variable. You can notice at the top we have this border variable. I'm using this border color variable to pass this value. So just down here we call var border color. Just out of that, border radius is going to be 50%. Then we say pointer event is going to be none, and then we specify transition. Transition is going to be to all the properties 0.1 second ease. And then we say transform, translate minus 50% and minus 50%. Just for that, we say z index 1000. Make sure you have this pointer above this. So that is why I put here 1000. Because if you notice, the hamburger menu have the z index 999. If you notice here, we have your z index 999. So we have to make sure that the pointer is above this hamburger. Just out of that, we specify mix blend mode difference. That's it. Now this property is very important because this property is going to allows us to make this a difference. You can notice when you hover on it, I'm going to change the color of this hamburger menu. This makes the difference between the circle and this hamburger menu. Now once you've done that, let's save the changes. You can see at the top you have this circle. Now what we have to do is we have to follow this circle to this pointer. So let's see how to do it with JavaScript. Once we understand how to create this beautiful hover effect on this hamburger menu, let's take a look at how we can create this magnetic effect to this hamburger menu. So whenever my mouse is close to this hamburger menu, you can see we have this magnetic effect to this hamburger menu. To create this, we need to use JavaScript. So we have to first create a file here, script.js, and make sure you import this file at the bottom right here. You have to add this file. So I'm going to add here a comment and say JavaScript, something like this. And then right down here, I'm going to say script. In the source attribute, I'm going to specify dot / and then specify script.js file. Just out of that, I'm going to back to the script.js. We're going to add all the JavaScript. So the first thing we need is to add here a multi-line comment, something like this. And here we add all the JavaScript elements. So as you know, in the index.html, here we have this hamburger menu and this pointer circle. So let me just access these both divs inside the script tag. Right here, I'm going to say constant hamburger is equal to document dot get element by id, and then we specify id here of the hamburger, this one. So I'm going to copy this id and specify that right here. So now once we have this division tag right inside this variable, let's access this pointer circle. So let's say here constant pointer circle is equal to document dot get element by id, and in the single quote we pass the pointer circle, just like this. Just after that, right down here, I'm going to copy this command, paste it right here, and say mouse position. So here what we're going to do is we're going to add the mouse position variables. What we need to do is we need to create here two variables. So let's create here a variable let target x is equal to 0. This variable store the x coordinates of the pointer, and then we specify here comma and say target y is equal to 0. And this variable used to store the y coordinates of this mouse. Just out of that, let me copy this command, paste it just down here, event listener. So let's add here some event listener. The first event listener is going to be the document dot add event listener. So we're going to add here an event. The event type is mouse move. So whenever the mouse moves, I'm going to call this listener. So right now I don't have this listener function. So what I'm going to do is right down here, I'm going to create a function and name that function handle mouse move, something like this. And I'm going to pass this handle mouse move function right here. So whenever I move my mouse, I'm going to execute this function. Now let's change this documentation. So I'm going to just copy and paste some documentation here, something like this. So this function is going to update the position and appearance of the interactive elements like the hamburger menu and pointer circle based on mouse event. So whenever I move my mouse, I'm going to execute this handle mouse move. Now let's implement this. So inside this handle mouse move here, we first need to add here the event parameter. Using this event parameter, I'm going to get the current position of the mouse. So we have to say here target x is equal to event dot client x. So this is going to return the current x coordinates of the cursor. Then we say target y is equal to e dot client y. So we store the y coordinates, the vertical coordinates of the cursor inside this variable. Now both this variable capture the mouse position relative to the viewport. So the x variable used to capture the horizontal position of the cursor, and the y variable is used to capture the vertical position of the cursor. Now we are going to store both these values inside this variable. The initial value of these variables is 0. And we're going to store the current value using this statement. Now, just for that, right down here, we're going to calculate the offset and the distance from the element. So to calculate that, we create here a variable called constant. A rectangle is equal to hamburger. We're going to call this variable hamburger dot get bounding client react. Now this function is going to retrieve the size and the position of the hamburger element relative to the viewport. Now, just out of that, once we get the size and the position inside this rectangle variable, we can say here offset x is equal to event dot client x minus, and in the parentheses we say rectangle, this variable, dot left plus rectangle dot width divided by 2. And we're going to do the same for the offset y as well. We say here constant offset y is equal to e dot client y minus, in the parentheses we say rectangle dot top plus rectangle dot height, and we divide this by 2. Now this offset x and this offset y calculates the horizontal and the vertical distance between the mouse position and the center of the hamburger menu. That is why I use both this statement. Now let's store this distance inside a variable. So we call here a variable called constant distance is equal to, and here we need to call a function called math dot hy pot. Now this function is going to use to calculate the distance of the mouse and the hamburger menu. So here we need to first pass the offset x value, and then as the second argument we need to pass the offset y value. That's it. Now inside this distance variable, we're going to have the distance between the mouse and this hamburger menu. Now, just after that, what I want to inform the hamburger menu that when the mouse is nearby, you have to move. So right down here, I'm going to add a comment and say move hamburger slightly when the mouse is nearby. So to inform that the mouse is nearby and you have to move, you can just simply call here hamburger dot style dot transform. As you know, to change the position of the hamburger menu, I'm using the CSS property called transform, and I'm going to pass here a property, and here in the single quote we specify translate, in the parentheses we specify 30 pixel and 0 pixel, something like this. Now when I save the changes, when I move my mouse, you can see this is going to move this position of this hamburger menu. When I move my mouse, you can see this is going to move to the right side. Now using this statement, I can move my hamburger menu, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm using this distance variable to change the position of this hamburger menu. So for that, let me just reset this value just like this. And now I'm going to say here if the distance, this variable, is less than 120, then execute the if block, otherwise execute the else block. And inside this else block, I'm going to reset the value of this hamburger menu. Means I'm going to specify this current position to this hamburger menu. But if my mouse is closer or nearby this hamburger menu, I'm going to execute this if block. So inside this if block, let me just pass here backtick, something like this. And here I'm going to say translate, in the parentheses. Here we call dollar object and say offset x divided by 4. And just out of these curly braces, here we specify pixel. And let's pass the second value. So pass here a comma, pass here object again, curly braces. And inside this, you have to say offset y divided by 4. And make sure you pass here pixel. What I want to say is when the mouse pointer is within 120 pixel of the hamburger menu, I'm going to move the hamburger menu slightly towards the mouse. The movement is scaled down by the factor of 4 for the subtle effect. So if you change this value, you will get a different effect. Let me just save the changes and show you the result. You can see when my mouse is nearby this hamburger menu, you can see this magnetic effect. Now, just out of that, once we achieve what we want from the JavaScript, let's take a look at how we can change the appearance of this hamburger menu when we hover on it. You can see when I completely hover on this hamburger menu, I'm going to disable the cursor, you can see, and change the color of this hamburger menu. So let's see how we can do it. So before we understand how we can change the color of this hamburger menu, we need to first create this pointer. So in my unfinished website, here you can notice I have my cursor right at the top. I want to follow this circle to the mouse. Now let's create a JavaScript code so the circle is going to follow my mouse movement. So let's take a look at how we can make this circle follow the mouse movement. We're going to use the same technique to follow this circle to the cursor. So right down here, just down here, I'm going to create a comment, multi-line comment, and then specify here, smoothly animates the pointer circle's position to follow the mouse. And right down here, we create a function. The function name is update pointer circle. And then here, we get all the positions of the pointer circle. So if you scroll up, you can notice we have this pointer circle. We're going to call that pointer circle here, dot get bounded client react. Now, as you know, we already used this function at the top. You can notice, as you know, this function is going to retrieve the size and the position of the current element. So we get the size and the position of the current element using this function, and then we store that inside a variable. So we say here constant. In the object, we create different variables and store all the values of this pointer circle. So we say here left, top, width, and height. So you will get all these properties from this, and we retrieve that and store inside this variable. Now, just out of that, we say here constant current x is equal to left plus width divided by 2. And then we say current y is equal to top plus height divided by 2. You can see we did the same thing right here, but with different names and with different technique. Just out of that, right down here, we say pointer circle dot style dot left. We specify the left position of the pointer circle is equal to, use backtick operator, and then call here dollar. In the object, you specify current x plus, in the parentheses, you specify targeted x, this variable, minus the current x with 0.6 pixel. Then you will get the left position of the pointer circle. And we are going to do the same. So we say here pointer circle dot style dot top. And this is going to be, I'm going to pass here backtick operator in the dollar. In the object, we say current y plus, in the parentheses, we say target y minus current y multiply by 0.6. And if I pass here pixel, then we get the top value of the pointer circle. And just out of that, at the end, request animation frame, and here you call the update pointer circle, this current function. Make sure you don't call here parenthesis, just like this. So this function is going to run again before the next screen reprint. So this is going to execute this function every time when we move the mouse. Just out of that, you have to call this function right down here. You can easily call this function. Make sure you add a command at the top. Start the pointer circle animation. Let me save the changes. You can see. Now the circle is going to follow my cursor. Now this lagging motion is achieved using the fractional movement 0.6 factor. If I change this to 1, we get the different lagging motions. You can notice. We have the quick response. You can change this according to your need. If I say here 2, save the changes. Next, let's understand how we can create the hover effect to this hamburger menu. Now, let's understand how we can create this beautiful hover effect on this hamburger menu. As you know, we have this handle move function, and this function is going to execute when we move the mouse. So we are going to call this function using this event listener. So what we're going to do is we create a new function right down here and call that function inside this handle mouse move. So when I move my mouse and hover over this hamburger menu, I'm going to change and pass background color to this circle. So at the top, right up here, I'm going to add a comment, and here I'm going to say update the appearance of the pointer circle based on the hover interaction. So here we create a function, name that function update pointer appearance, something like this. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this function. Just out of that, right down here, we're going to follow this same code right inside this function. So here we say constant rectangle is equal to hamburger dot get bounding client react. And then once we get the size and the position of the current element, we then can say constant is close is equal to, we call this function, and then we specify the x and the y offset. Now because we don't have this variable inside this function, we can get rid of both these variable, and then here I can say target x minus, in the parentheses we say rectangle dot left plus rectangle dot width, and then divide that by 2. So this is my first argument, and then we pass your comma and say target y minus, in the parentheses we say rectangle dot top plus rectangle dot height, and we divide that by 2. So we are going to follow the same technique right inside this statement, but we put everything on a single line. Now just out of that, I'm going to store the true and false value inside this is close variable. So instead of adding this if and else right down here, I'm going to add that at the end right here. So get rid of this semicolon, and here I'm going to say if this value is less than 65, then store true or false value inside this variable. So if my mouse pointer closer less than 65 pixel to this hamburger menu, then return true inside this is close variable, otherwise return false. So here I'm going to say pointer circle dot style dot background color, and I'm going to change the background color of this circle when there is a true inside this is close. Here I'm going to say background color is equal to, and here I'm going to say is close. If it is true, then execute the if block, otherwise execute the else block. So here in the if block, I'm going to say here single quote and say here var double dash white color. I'm going to call the CSS variable with the white color hex value, and then call here colon and pass nothing here. This is because if there is a false value inside this, I'm not going to specify any background color. Otherwise, I'm going to specify the white color to this circle. Now let me show you the result. So once you complete this statement, you have to just call this. So I'm going to just copy this and paste that right down here inside this handle mouse move function right here. We're going to call this function inside this function right here. Let me save the changes. I have a white color to this circle, and because I have here mix blend mode difference, I'm going to get this effect. And then just out of that, I want to increase the size of this circle when I change the color of it. So right down here, I'm going to say pointer circle dot style dot width is equal to is close. We have true value inside this is close. Then I'm going to return 100 pixel width to this point circle. Otherwise, return the default value, which is 80 pixel. So if you're back to the style.css, then you can notice the pointer circle value is 80 pixel. So we pass the default value when there is a false inside this variable. Otherwise, return 100 pixel. And we're going to do the same for the height as well. So we duplicate this, and here we pass the height. Something like this. Let me save the changes and show you the result. When I hover on this hamburger menu, you can see I'm going to increase the size of this circle. That's super easy, right? Now, let me just simplify both these statements. You can see we just duplicated this line. So let me simplify this. So let me just copy and cut this statement right from here. Get rid of this statement. Then I can pass here equal to sign and put the pointer style height right between this statement. So now I'm going to have the same size to my circle. So this will just simplify this statement. You can notice. Once you understand how to create this beautiful hamburger menu, when you click on it, let's understand how to create this navigation page. So let's create this navigation page and move to the home page. Before we understand how to create this navigation page, let's understand how to create this home section. Now, because home section is simple and easy to understand, let's start with the home section. We first create the home section and then move to the navigation page. So let's understand how to create this home section. So I'm going to back to my VS Code and back to the index.html file. Let me minimize this header and we are going to move to the main section right here. So here we first copy this comment and then paste that right down here. So this indicates this is the hero section. And right inside this hero section right here, I'm going to create a section with the ID hero section. And inside this hero section, here we first create a container class. And we also going to create here a class called space between. I'm going to create this class in the style.css file. Just for now, inside this div, here we create another div. And inside this div, we create h1 heading tag and add some text here. So I'm going to copy and paste this text right inside this unfinished website. So here I'm going to put some text, something like this. And then I'm going to do the same for the h2 heading tag as well. So I'm going to call here h2 heading tag and put some text here. And now because here I have a border here to these words, let's put this word inside a span tag. So let's create here a span tag, something like this. And then inside this, and make sure you specify class to this span tag. So we specify here class, span color, and span underline. And just out of this span tag, here we pass and. Let me copy this span tag again. Let's copy this and paste it here again instead of this value. Now let's get rid of this text and then change this text to awesome website, something like this. Let me save the changes and show you the result. You can see. Let me toggle this right here and then just out of this div right here, this is my display title. So what we are going to do is we're going to grab this div and create here a div with the class display title. And we put that div again as it is. And just after this div right here, we create a paragraph. And inside this paragraph, I'm going to specify this text, this one. So just copy this text and then specify that right here. But now instead of this scroll, I'm going to put this scroll inside the span tag. So I'm going to copy and paste some span tag right here. So instead of scroll, I'm going to put a span tag with the class span color, something like this. So with the help of this class, I can easily change the color of this span tag. Now let me save the changes. So we have the result something like this. So let's back to the style.css and style this section and convert this into this. I'm going to scroll up first, copy this, scroll down, and here I'm going to paste that comment. And instead of navigation hamburger, here I'm going to say hero section, just like this. So first thing we need is to select the site main class, main ID, and then specify overflow X property, which is hidden. So anything is overflow from the X direction, I'm going to specify overflow X property hidden to it. Just for that, we select the site main and then select the container. And I'm going to specify padding block to it, which is 50 pixel. Just on that, inside this index, here we have the display title. So we're just going to specify here dot and say display title, and then specify here margin block is going to be auto. Now this is going to center this text. Just out of that, as you can see inside this display title, we have the h1 heading tag. So let's select that h1 heading tag. So right down here, we first select the site main. Then I'm going to select the display title. And inside that, we have h1 heading tag. So we select that h1 heading tag and then specify display inline. Font size is going to be 9 rem. Then I'm going to specify font width 900. Then the line height is going to be 150 pixel. Text transform is going to uppercase. So we're going to convert all this text into uppercase, something like this. Then padding block is going to be 20 pixel. And we add transition to all 0.3 second each. Let me save the changes and we have the text here. You can notice. Now just out of that, let me create the hover effect on this h1 heading tag. So let's copy it, paste it down here and call here colon and say hover. And here we first specify color, which is a var black color. When we hover on it, we're going to specify black color to it. And then we add the WebKit text stroke, which is going to be a var variable text stroke. We already have a variable value to this property. You can notice we're going to pass this value right here. Save the changes, and now when I hover on it, you can see we have this effect. You have this hover effect on this text. We're just going to remove the background color of this text. Just for that, we also have a h2 heading tag. So let's copy this statement, paste it here, and now select h2 heading tag. And then specify font size 1.2 rem. And font width is going to be 300. And the color is going to be a variable light gray color. Save the changes. So this will just change the color of this text. You can notice. And I'm going to change the color of the paragraph as well. So let's copy this. Here we pass a comma and duplicate this statement. And here I'm going to pass the paragraph. When I save the changes, this is not going to do anything because the paragraph is not inside this display title. Instead, it's in the container. So let's copy this container, and instead of this display title, here we pass the container. And I save the changes, you can see we have this result. And now let's copy this paragraph and change the font size of it. The font size is 0.88 rem. Save the changes and we have the result what we want. Now let me just align this home page properly. So as you know, inside this index.html, here you can see we have here a space between class, this span color, this span underline class. We haven't created this class inside this style.css. So let's create that inside a global section. So if you scroll up, you can notice we have this global section. Let's scroll down and create these classes right inside this global section. So here we first create a class called span color. Now we have this class right here. You can notice we create this class and then specify here color, a variable color, and then we specify the white color 300. So this will change the color of these span tags. Just for that, we select the span tag with the underline class, this one. So we copy this and specify that here. And then we specify here text decoration, underline. We have this underline right here. Let's add some space between the text and the underline. So we call here text underline offset 8 pixel. This will add some space, you can notice, and the cursor is going to be pointer. So when you hover on it, you will see this pointer cursor. Now just saw that, as you can see right here, we have a class called space between. Let's create this class. Right down here we create space between, and then specify here display flex. Flex direction is going to be column. Then you specify justify content space between, and height is going to be 100 viewport height. Now when I save the changes, you can see we have the result what we want. Now the text at the center of the document. Now just after that, you can see everything is correct, but specify here a break to this paragraph, just like this. I'm going to add a break statement. So just down here, right here, I'm going to add here BR, something like this. And then I'm going to copy this and paste that right here as well, something like this. I'm going to save the changes. You can see we have the result what we want. So now the home page is slightly ready. Now what I want to add a background color to this cursor when I hover on this display. Let's see how we can do this with JavaScript. Now what I want, when I hover on this text, I want to change the color of this circle and add a background color to this circle. So we'll get this blending effect. So let's see how to do it. I'm going to back to my project and open the JavaScript file, the script.js file. And as you know, we have this update pointer appearance. And right here, as you can see, when I hover on this hamburger menu, I'm going to add background color to this circle and increase the size of it. I'm using the same function to do the same with this h1 heading tag. So for that, at the top, what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to say constant h1 forward. Then I'm going to say equal to sign. And then here I'm going to say document dot query selector. And then I'm going to select the h1 heading tag. So as you know, we have this h1 heading tag right here. So if I scroll down, you can see we have this site main, and inside that we have this display one h1 heading tag. Let's copy it and paste that right inside this single quote. Instead of selecting this division tag, I wanted to store a true and false value inside this h1 hover. So what I want to say is, so whenever I hover on this h1 heading tag, I want to store true inside this variable, otherwise store false. So as you notice, this statement is just going to store the h1 heading tag inside this variable. So instead of just storing the h1 heading tag, here we pass question mark and pass here dot. And this is going to allows us to call a method. So I'm going to call here a method called matches. And if this is going to matches to the hover effect, so in the single quote, here we pass colon and say here hover. So if this statement, so if this div matches the hover effect, then return true inside this variable, otherwise return false. So once we have a true and false value inside this variable, I can use this statement to change the color of this circle. So now instead of just a single condition, now I can grab this condition and put that inside this parenthesis. And here I'm going to pass or h1 hover. And I'm going to do the same to this width and height as well. So here I'm going to grab this is close, pass here or, and pass the is hover. That's it. Now when I save the changes, now when I hover on this h1 heading tag, you can see I'm going to have this result. Once you understand how to create this beautiful home page, let's take a look at how you can create the navigation menu. So when you click on this button, I want to open and create this navigation menu. Let's take a look at how you can create this navigation menu. Inside this navigation menu, we have this rotating text. Then we have these navigation items with this beautiful hover effect, some social icons, and the contact details. As well as when you click on this hamburger menu, we're going back to the home page, and when we click on it again, we have this flash animation, and then we have the navigation menu. Let's take a look at how we can create this. I'm going to open my unfinished website and back to the index.html. Right here, you can notice this is my hero section. I'm going to minimize this, open the header, and just inside this now, just after this container, right down here, I'm going to create a navigation page. So let's copy this, scroll down, and paste that right here, and name this navigation page. And just down here, you have to create a division tag with the class now page. And inside this, we have a container and space between class. Now, as you know, we already have the container and this space between class inside a global section. We don't need to style this again. Now, just out of that, here we create a div with the class site logo. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this class. And inside this, we have a rotate class. Now, I'm going to put this rotate text inside this rotate div. We'll do that later, but just for now, just after this div, right down here, we create UL tag with the class now list. Now here inside this UL, we create li tags, and inside this li, we have anchor tags. Currently, we don't specify any href attribute, but just for now, let's specify class name. Href attribute. Now let's specify class, which is strokes. And then we specify here text, work. Then we add here a span tag, and then add all good stuff. A simple text. Then I'm going to copy this li and paste that down here. And make sure you change this text to about. So this is my second navigation item. Just out of that, here I'm going to say who am I. I only have two navigation items inside the navigation menu. And just after this UL, right down here, I'm going to add here social icons or contacts. So right down here, we create here a div with the class socials. And inside the socials, we have the email ID, a phone number, the website title, and the social icons. So inside the socials here, we create a class called flex, first flex. And inside this first flex, we create and add an anchor tag with the class span color. As you know, we already have this class inside the global classes. And then we add a class called span underline. And to this class, we specify the email daily tuition@gmail.com, the example of the email. Then we copy this, paste it again, and then change this email to number, a sample number. Just after that, just after this first flex, we create here a center flex. So we say here center flex. And inside the center flex, we have a paragraph. And inside a paragraph, we have a span tag with the class called span underline. And the text is going to be daily tuition. And just out of this center flex, just out of this div, I'm going to create here end flex class. And inside this, we have an anchor tag. And inside this anchor tag, I'm going to put the icons. This one, the Instagram icon and the Facebook icon. So I'm using the SVG to add both these icons. So I'm going to put SVG here. You can notice. And I'm going to add the anchor tag here again. Second SVG. The Facebook SVG. Thing like this. That's it. The navigation menu is now completely ready. You can notice. Now let's style this navigation menu. So just back to the style.css. As you know, when you scroll up, here is the hero section. Let me just copy it. And as you know, this is your hamburger menu section. Navigation hamburger menu. Just after this hamburger, right down here, I'm going to create a command and then specify here navigation page. So we start and style the navigation page right here. So the first thing we need is to select the header, and inside that we have a nav page. The nav page class. Let me show you. This one. I'm going to access this div, and to this div we first specify position, which is fixed. Top is going to be 0, and left is also going to be 0. Just after that, we specify some background color to hide the background. You can see, I can see my navigation menu as well as my home section. So let's hide this. So I'm going to put here background color, which is going to be a var background black color. Save the changes, and you can see this will hide some text from here. But when I specify width here, this will hide the complete page. You can see. Now everything is behind this navigation menu. Just for that, we also need to add here height, which is 100 viewport height, and then add Z index. Z index is going to be 100. I want to make sure that the navigation menu is above the background content. So we pass here 100 and then specify display none. Now, currently, I'm going to comment this statement because we are working on the navigation page. Once we complete the navigation page, we enable this property. Now, as you know, we have a header navigation page. Inside that, we have a container as well. So we select the container, and to the container, we specify max width. Max width is going to be 1800 pixel. We change the max width of this container and add padding block to it. Padding block is going to be 50 pixel. So we add some width, some more width to the container. Just after that, we select the page again and then select the rotate class. Just after that, we select the nav list. So we first select the nav page, and inside that we have nav list. This one. I'm going to select this class, and inside this class, I'm going to specify margin bottom is going to be auto. So this will just shift everything to the top. Then I'm going to add align self, flex end. This will move everything to the right side. Then we add list style, which is none. Then add display flex. Then I'm going to add flex direction, which is column. And then add padding block, which is going to be 50 pixel. Along with that, we add padding right as well. Padding right is going to be 14 rem. Just for that, we select all the li tags. So I'm going to select this and then specify display flex, flex direction column, and gap is going to be 1 rem. So add some gap between both these text. Just out of that, I want to select this span tag, this one. I'm going to select this li tag and then select the descendant span tag and then specify display block. Font size is going to be 1.5 rem, and then we specify font width 100, and color is going to be a white color. And at the end, we specify text align right. I have here a class called strokes. I'm going to select this class, specify that right here, and we have the strokes inside the li tag. So I'm going to select all the li tag, and inside that we have strokes. I'm going to select that strokes and then specify text decoration, which is none, and then specify font size, which is 15 rem. Increase the font size of this strokes. Then we add WebKit text stroke, and this is going to be the text stroke variable. So we call here text strokes, font width 900, and color is going to be transparent, something like this. And then we add display block or inline block and text align right. That's it. You can see the navigation menu is slightly ready. I'm going to just select the strokes again and create hover effect on it. So we create hover and then add color on it. So we add color where and the white color. So when you hover on this text, you will get this white color. You can see. Just out of this hover effect right down here, I'm going to select the socials, this one. So let me first select the nav list. So as you know, the social is in the now page. So we're simply going to first select the header, then select the now page, and then we have socials. So we select the socials, then we specify display flex, justify content, space between, align items end, and gap is going to be 1 rem. Something like this. So this will add space here. You can notice. Inside the socials, you can notice we have these flex first flex, the center flex, and the end flex. Let's style this right down here. I'm going to simply select the social first. So let's copy it, paste that here, and then select first flex. And here we specify display flex, and gap is going to be 3 rem. Just out of that, we select the socials again, and this time I'm going to select center flex, and inside that we have a paragraph and a span tag. We specify color to it, which is a light gray color. So this will specify color to the span tag, to this one. Just out of that, we select the socials again and select the end flex, and then specify display flex, and flex direction is going to be column. Then we add a gap here. Gap is going to be 0.5 rem. And just out of this, we select the end flex, and inside that we have anchor tag. We select the anchor tag, and to this anchor tag we specify display inline flex, justify content center, then specify align items center. Width is going to be 40 pixel and height is also going to be 40 pixel. After that, we add some border to it. The border is going to be 1 pixel solid, and then call a variable with the light gray color. You can see we have two squares here. You can see at the bottom, you can see we have two squares. And then we add border radius, which is 50%. After that, when I save the changes, you can see we have these circles here. You can see. Just after that, I'm going to select this anchor tag, specify that here, select the descendant SVGs, and specify the field color. So field color is going to be the white color, just like this. You can see we have these icons here. Now, at the end, what I want to change and remove this padding. You can see we have some space between this text. So I'm going to just back to these strokes, and here we add line height. So the line height is going to be 200 pixel. So we remove this line height from this text. And I say the changes, you can see we remove this space between this text. Just out of that, scroll up and to this nav list. Here you need to pass some gap. So we pass here gap 5 rem. When I save the changes, that's it. We have the result what we want. Now the navigation menu is completely ready. Now the last thing we need is to add a click event to this hamburger menu. Let's see how to do it. Once you understand how to create this page, let's click on this hamburger menu and add properly functional navigation menu. So in this unfinished website, when I click on this button, this is not going to do anything. This is because we don't have a click event to this hamburger menu. So to add this event, we back to the script.js, scroll up, and right here, we create an event. So first, we need to get the nav page. So first thing we need is to create a variable nav page is equal to document dot query selector, and then in the single quote here we select header and the nav page. Now keep in mind you have to specify the exact name of this class. Now once you have this class, so once you have this div inside this variable, you have to create a toggle event. So when you click on this hamburger menu, you can execute a function. So just down here inside this event listeners, we add here hamburger dot add event listener, and the type of the event is click, and we're going to execute a function called toggle menu. Now currently I don't have this function yet, so let's create this function. So just copy it. I'm going to create a function with the name toggle menu and then specify here an object. That's it. Now let me add here a comment at the top to indicate this is the toggle menu. Just out of that, when I click on this button, this hamburger menu, I'm going to execute this function. Now inside this function, the very first thing we need is to make a crosshair. So in the finished website, you will notice there is a crosshair. As you know, if I add active to the hamburger right here, then we can have a crosshair with CSS, right? So let's add this class with JavaScript. So here we're simply going to say constant is active is equal to hamburger dot class list dot toggle. Now this toggle class is going to add and remove active class. So we pass here a class name active. So when you click on this button, it is going to first add this class, and if the class is already there and we click on the button again, this function is going to remove that class. So when I save the changes, and now when I click on this button, you can see we have this cross and this plus animation. So now you can see the button is successfully ready. Now next thing we need is to add an active class to the nav page as well. So we add nav page dot class list dot toggle, and we add active class here, something like this. Just out of that, just back to the style.css, and as you know, now the default state of the navigation menu is need to be display none. So I'm going to uncomment this and save the changes. Now the default state of navigation menu is display none. I'm going to back to the script, and change this state with GSAP animation. So the first thing we need is to add GSAP to this project. GSAP, you have to just head on to gsap.com and open the GSAP website. GSAP is an animation library. It's completely professional and easy to use. I have a complete course on GSAP. You can find more about GSAP library on the top right corner of the screen or in the description. I have a complete course link in the description. You can check that out. So once you open the gsap.com, click on docs, and right here when you scroll down, here you have a CDN option. Click on it and enable this scroll trigger. Now because we are using scrolling animation, we are going to check this scroll trigger box and copy these script tags. Just copy it back to the index.html, scroll down, and before this script tag, the custom script tag, I'm going to paste the GSAP script tag, something like this. Save the changes. Now you're ready to use GSAP in your application with just a 2-line of HTML code. Just back to the script.js, and right here, let's use GSAP in the project. So to use GSAP, you have to call an object called GSAP dot and then specify here twins. There are different twins in GSAP. So I'm using here 2 twins. And here you need to specify the selector. I want to specify animation to the now page. So I'm going to first specify the selector now page and then specify the properties. So I'm going to specify duration here. So the duration is going to be 0. Then I'm going to specify display. Display property is going to be is active. If it is true, then execute and specify block to the display property. Otherwise specify none. I'm also going to specify opacity. Opacity is going to be is active. If it is true, then opacity needs to be 1. Otherwise it needs to be 0. Here you need to add a comma instead of semicolon. Let me save the changes and back to the template. Now when you click on this button, you can see we have this navigation menu. Now just out of that, this is used to display the navigation menu. Just out of that, I want to add a flash effect to this menu. So when you click on this button, you can see we have this flash effect. So let's see how to add it. So just back to the script.js, and here we add a flash effect. To add a flash effect, you have to say constant flash overlay is equal to document dot create element, and in this div here we create a division tag. Now we are going to create a new div using a JavaScript. We create a division tag when we click on this button, and just out of that we say flash overlay dot class name is equal to, we specify class name to this div, which is flash overlay, and then we specify now page dot append child, and I'm going to specify the flash overlay inside the navigation page. So when we click on this button, we're going to create the division tag, specify class to it, which is flash overlay, and then insert that div in the now page as a child. So before we move on, let's create this class. So just copy it and create this class inside style.css. So let me save this page first. Back to the style.css, scroll up. Here is my global section. And inside this global section, right down here, we create this class. So to this class, we specify position. Top is going to be 0 and left is also going to be 0. Then we specify width 100% and height is also going to be 100%. After that, we specify background color, which is a white color, and Z index is going to be 2000. That's it. Save the changes, back to the script.js. So once we specify styling to this, we are going to display this div using GSAP. So we call here GSAP, gsap.to, then specify here flash overlay as a selector, and in the object, we specify duration is going to be 1 second, and opacity is going to be 0. Then we specify the easing function. So the ease is going to be power 3 dot in. Now there are different easing functions in GSAP. You can find out more about easing function inside the documentation of GSAP. Just for that, right here, we call a function on complete. So on the completion of this animation, I'm going to execute a function, a callback function, and inside that we say flash overlay dot remove. We're going to remove this flash overlay instantly. That's it. I'm going to save the changes. Now if I click on this button, you can see we have this flash animation. That's super easy, right? Now just after that, I also want to add animation to these navigation items. To add animation to these navigation items, here we add a comment and say animation to navigation items. So here we say GSAP dot from. Now we are using from twins. And inside this, as you know, to select this text, we need to head on to the strokes. So if you scroll down, you can notice we have a class called strokes. Just copy it and then specify that here. Pass your comma, and in the object, you have to specify duration, which is 1. Then specify y property. Y property is used to specify translate to y 100 pixel. Then we specify rotate and then specify opacity. Opacity is going to be 0. And we also call a stager here. So we call here stager 0.5. I'm going to start from these values and back to its default value. Now when I click on this button, you can see we have this animation to these navigation items. You will notice we have this rotating text inside a project page as well. If I scroll down, you can notice here I also have that rotating text. I'm going to create this rotating text here and then we'll add that inside this navigation menu. So let's move on and create this project page. Let's take a look at how we can create this beautiful project page. So when you scroll down, you can see we have this beautiful project every time when you scroll down. So let's see how to create this. But before we create this project page, you can notice we miss one thing here. We need to create and add this background color to this cursor when we hover on this navigation items. So let's see how we can add this and then we'll move to the project page. In the script.js, inside this update pointer appearance, right here, as you know, when we move the mouse, we're going to change the appearance of the cursor using this function. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both these navigation items. So to select both these navigation items, here we say constant links hovered is equal to array dot from, and inside this from we say document dot query selector all. Make sure you specify here query selector all because we need to create the hover effect on both these items. And inside this, in the single quote, we need to specify the strokes. This one. Copy this and specify that here. Just out of that, right here at the end, we need to call some method, something like this. Now let me just enter here, something like this. Now the sum method is going to return the true if at least one element in the array matches the condition hover. So here I'm going to say link. So the link variable is going to return any of these links. And here we say link dot matches the hover effect, something like this. So we're going to call this function matches. So the sum is going to return true if at least one element in the array matches the condition hover. So now once we have true and false value inside this link hover, let me copy it and then pass that to these conditions. So here I'm going to pass or link hover, something like this, and save the changes. Now when I save the changes, you can see when I hover on these navigation items, we have this background color. So now we successfully added this hover effect on this navigation item. Now, just out of that, I want to hide this mouse cursor when I completely hover on this button. So for that, I'm going to open handle mouse move, and right here, just after this distance, right on here, I'm going to say hamburger dot style dot cursor is equal to distance is less than, if it is less than 5 pixel, I'm going to specify none to it, means I'm going to remove the cursor, or I'm going to display the cursor with pointer, something like this. Save those changes. And now when the cursor is completely over the hamburger menu, I'm going to hide it. You can see. Now I don't have cursor here. I just have a circle. And when I move my mouse back, I'm going to have my cursor here. Just out of that, let's back to the index.html and create a project page. So what you have to do is, you have to just first copy this comment to create a project page. And inside this main section, here I'm going to paste it again. And instead of hero section, now I'm going to say project slides. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this section. So to create a section, we start with the section tag and then specify ID to it, slide section. And right down here, inside this slide section, we create a class called flex. And inside that, we have a flex item. And inside this flex item, we're going to have the project. We're going to have the image, the title, and the rotating text. We also have this vertical text and this background slide name. When I scroll down, you can see this is the second slide. When I scroll down, this is the third, and so on. So using this flex item, we're going to create different slides, create and add display text. And then here we add h1 heading tag with a span tag. And inside this span tag, we specify text point. And to the span, here we specify class absolute. Just out of that, just out of this div, here we create a class called image flex. And inside that, we have a div with the class bg image. So using this div, we are going to add the image inside this section. Just out of that, we add h3 heading tag with the class design plus website. And then we add the paragraph with the slide number, which is 01. So this one, 01. And just out of that, we have this circle. After a few minutes, we'll add the circle. Just for now, let me save the changes to the unfinished slide and scroll down. Here you can see we have this project page. Toggle this window right here and back to the style.css. Now let's copy this comment, scroll down, and here I'm going to paste that comment as it is. And this is the section of the project. So we say here project slides. Now here we need to first select this slide section. So we select the slides section and then specify overflow hidden. After that, we select the slide section again, then select the descendant flex class, and inside that we have an image flex, and we specify display flex to it. Just out of that, we select the flex item. So I'm going to select both this class, and inside that we have a flex item class. We select that and specify position relative, and margin top is going to be 20 rep. So this will add some margin to this section. You can see. Now, just out of that, just out of this flex item, inside this flex item, as you know, we have the h3 heading tag, this one. Let me style it. So I'm going to select the flex item, and inside that I have h3 heading tag. I'm going to select this and then specify here first font width, which is 300. Then I'm going to specify color. Color is going to be white color. Then I'm going to specify here text transform, which is uppercase. And then I'm going to say here opacity, which is 0.6. I'm going to specify here text wrap, no wrap. And at the end, I want to vertically align this text. So I'm going to say here transform, rotate minus 270 degree. I'm going to rotate this text. You can notice right down here. You can see this text. Then I'm going to specify here translate Y, which is going to be 45%, and translate X is going to be minus 80%, something like this. So right down here, let me select the flex, image flex as it is, just like this. And inside that we have BG image division tag. To this, we specify background image. And as you know, we don't have the asset folder right inside this project. Now let me add all the assets of this project inside this template. I already have some images. You can download these images from the link provided in the description. I'm going to just add here an asset folder like this. And inside these assets, we have some images. So let's use these images. So inside this background image right here, I'm going to add URL. And inside this, in the single quote, in the double quote, we say ./assets image1. And I say the changes, I'm not going to have anything. But when I specify width, 100%, say the changes, you can see I have this image here. Now, let me add height as well. Height is going to be 75. Viewport, and I save it. You can see we have this image here. And just out of that, I'm going to specify here position, relative, then add background size, which is cover, and background position, center. That's it. And I save the changes. You can see we have this image here. Now you can see we have this text here. You can notice this vertical text just after this image. So we properly align this text with this transform property. Now just out of this, I'm going to select the image flex, and inside that I have this paragraph inside this image flex. So let's select that. I'm going to select the paragraph, and to this paragraph, first you need to specify font size 26th rem. When I specify this font size, you can see we have this text here with the 26 rem. Let me just toggle this on the left side. And now I'm going to specify font width 900, var color, which is light gray. Then we specify WebKit, and we call a variable with the text stroke variable. Now, instead of light gray color, let me use here a black color, something like this. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify transform. Transform is going to be rotate minus 270 degree. And then I'm going to specify here translate Y minus 5%. And then I'm going to add opacity 0.1, and Z index is going to be minus 1. That's it. The page is now slightly ready. Let's style the page title. So to style this page title, as you can see, inside this display text, we have h1 tag, and inside that we have a span tag. So to style this page title, let me just toggle this right here. So to style this page title, here, I'm going to first select the display text. So first, I'm going to specify here flex, and inside that we have a display text class, and I'm going to select that and specify height, which is 15 rem. I'm going to add some height to this display text, something like this. Just out of that, I'm going to select the display text as it is and select the h1 heading tag. And to this h1 heading tag, here we specify web stroke, text stroke, 3 pixel, and specify a variable with a white color. And just after that, I'm going to select the same h1 heading tag, but this time I'm going to select the span tag inside the h1. As you know, we have a span tag inside h1 You will notice we select that, and here we specify font size 12.5 rem, just like this. Then font width is going to be bold, and Z index is going to be -2. Now here, the Z index property is very crucial to create this kind of effect. So you can notice here, we have this transparent text right here. And then we have the solid color. Whenever the text is over this image, we have this transparent effect. And when the text is out of this image, we have this solid color. So to create this, there is a very important role of this Z index property. So I'm going to specify here -2, save the changes. Now what I'm going to do is, right here, you can see we have this absolute class. So let's create this class. So say here dot absolute, as the name suggests, absolute class is going to use for the position absolute, and inset is going to be 0. Now this inset property is going to reset and specify 0 property to all the positions, means to the top, left, right, and bottom. Save the changes. This is not going to do anything, but when I specify transform property to it, transform is going to be translate x 20% and translate y is going to be 2%. When I save the changes, then we have the result something like this. Let me just increase this value to 10. So now we have this text behind this image. This is because we have this Z index value -2. If I make this to +2, we have this text at the front of this image. So what we are going to do is we're going to duplicate this text. So I'm simply going to duplicate this division tag as it is right down here, right down here. And now when you save the changes, you can see you have this point right here, but you have some big space right down here. So what we are going to do is we're going to copy this and pass that to both these divs and make both these divs absolute. So we'll have the absolute position to both these divs. When I save the changes, you can see we have the absolute position to both these divs. Let me change values of this transform so we can see this text clearly. Now you can see we have 2 division tags right inside this slide section. I'm going to use this first division tag to add this text above this image, and this division tag is used to keep this text behind this image. Now by doing this, we're going to have this beautiful transparent effect. So we add here a class called front, and I'm going to leave everything as it is. Let me save the changes. Back to the style.css, and here we add a class called front. If I specify color here red, I don't have this color to this div because the second div is above this division tag. If I remove or comment this, you can easily see the red h1 heading tag. And if I change the Z index of this front div, so let's suppose if I specify here Z index is going to be 3, then when I save the changes, you can see the red div is above this image, the white div is behind this image. But now let me get rid of this color right from here. So you can see both these divs. You have to make the front div transparent so you can see your image. What you have to do is you have to copy this front as it is, then select the h1 heading tag, and inside that you have a span tag. You have to pass a transparent color to the span tag. And when I save the changes, you can see we have the transparent color to this text. I'm going to comment this because we are using this in GSAP. Just for now, I'm going to leave everything as it is. And just after that, right down here, let's create this rotating circle. And we're also going to add this beautiful hover animation on it. Now, let's understand how to create this rotating text. Now you can notice we also have mouse movement effect to this text, and we have this hover effect on it. Let's see how to create this in this template. So I'm going to just back to my template and open the index.html file. Right here, just after this div, right down here, I'm going to create a div with the class circular, and inside this, we are going to add the SVG. Now keep in mind, you can achieve this with CSS, but the result is not accurate. So instead of using CSS, I'm using SVG. So I'm just going to copy an SVG and paste that right here. Now, if you want, you can change this text and specify your own text. That's upon you. This text is going to display right inside this circle. So once you have this, let me just style this section. Let me save the changes. And here you can notice we have this text, a big text here. Here, I'm going to first select the circular and then specify transform. Translate is going to be 60% and minus 120%. We change the position of this text. Just after that, we add transition. Transition is going to be on transform. On transform 0.5 second is out. And at the end, I'm going to specify Z index 400. Just after that, I want to specify size to this SVG. So let's use this circle and select the SVG. And first we specify width to it 180 pixel. Save the changes. You can see we have this text here. Now let's specify here overflow just like this. Then I'm going to select the SVG and select the path. And to the path, we specify fill property none. So we'll remove this background color. You can notice. So I'm going to say here circle, select the text. The font size is going to be 14 pixel, something like this. Then I'm going to specify fill color, which is white. Then I'm going to specify text transform, uppercase. Then letter spacing is going to be -1 pixel. And after that, we add some padding to it. Padding is going to be 10 pixel. And text anchor is going to be at the middle. I want to create an hover effect. So to create an hover effect, you need to first specify here strokes. And I'm going to specify here a black color. Then stroke width 0. And we add a transition to it. Transition is going to be on stroke 0.4 second is. And we're going to add hover effect on this circle. So copy it, paste it here. When we hover on this circle, I'm going to select the SVG path. And then I'm going to say here stroke width is going to be 45 and save the changes. Now when I hover on it, you can see we have these strokes. But now you can notice the strokes is not in circle. To make this circle, we have to add visible property, this SVG. Here, we have to add here overflow visible. Save the changes. You can see now we have a complete circle here. And we also need to say here transform origin center. So we can easily rotate this text from the center. Save the changes. Just after that, once we add a hover effect, we also need to add here fill property. So we call here fill and we call here a hex value. So we just pass here a hex value. So when we hover on it, you can see we have this effect. Now, just out of that, right down here, we say transition to all 0.6 second is. Now when I say the changes, you can see we have this beautiful hover effect animation. Now let me rotate this text. So to rotate this, we are using the animation keyframe. So to do that, here I'm going to add a comment and say animation keyframes. So here you need to say @keyframes rotate text, and we just start with the 0%, and here we say transform rotate 0 degree and 100% transform, rotate 360 degree. Save the changes, and now you have to pass this to the circle. So just scroll up and to this SVG right here, you have to specify animation. Animation name is rotate text. So the name of the animation is rotate text. Copy it, pass that here. Then I'm going to specify 10 seconds, the timing of the rotation. Then this is going to be the linear and infinite. Save the changes. You can see we have the continuous infinite rotation. I also need to add this in the menu right here. So what we have to do is you have to just copy this div and paste that right inside this nav page, right inside this rotate division tag, right here. Let me save the changes. You can see we have the result something like this. This is because we have this rotation at the top. We just need to adjust this. We just need to make sure that we have a position fixed class to this rotation. So the top inside this nav page right here, I'm going to select this rotate of this nav page. Header nav page dot rotate. Position is going to be absolute, bottom 0, and width is going to be 400 pixel. Save the changes. Now you can see we have this text here inside a menu, right? Now, just for that, once you have this text, the page is now completely ready. Let's add animation to it using GSAP. Now, the very first thing we need is to animate this rotation. Now, what I want, when I move my mouse to the left side, I want to move this text to the right side. And when I move my mouse to the right side, I want to move this rotating text to the left side, means to the opposite direction. So to add this animation, I'm using the handle mouse function. So if you back to the script.js, then you will notice here, we have this function, handle mouse move. So whenever my mouse move, I'm going to execute this function. Right inside this here, we add a command and say adjust the circular element position or movement. So to adjust that, we need to get the x and y coordinates. So we say here constant x is equal to, we call math dot min. Then we say here math again dot max. And right here inside this, I'm also going to create one more parenthesis. And then here I'm going to say e dot client x divided by window dot inner width. And then just after this parenthesis, here we pass multiply by -10. And as a second argument, we pass -50. And just out of this parenthesis, here we pass comma and then specify the factors. So we specify here 20. Now these are some values. So this 10 is scaled to normalize the value of a range influenced by the factor 10. This inverts the movement direction. So just for that, we have a final range of -50 to 20. Now just for that, here you have to say constant y is equal to math dot mean, and here you also need to create math dot max, create a parenthesis and say e dot client y divided by window dot inner height, and we're going to multiply this. So just after this parenthesis, you have to say multiply -20, say here comma and say -50, and outside of this parenthesis, here you have to specify 60. So the y position is going to be between -50 to 60 pixel. Just for that, you need to first select the circular class, this one. So to select that, as you know, you have to just scroll up, and here you have to say constant circular is equal to document dot query selector all. Now make sure you specify query selector all to select all the circles, and then in the single quote you specify here first dot and then specify circular. Make sure you pass here dot. This indicates this is a type of class, and select all the circles. Now once you have this variable, scroll down back to your code right here, and you have to say here circular dot for each. Now make sure you call for each, because we are going to add this transition to all the circular text. And inside this, here we say el, then we say element dot style dot transform. We're going to access the transform property of every element, and then specify here in the backtick operator, we say translate. We first specify the initial position of the circle. So we specify here 65% and minus 140. This is the initial position. And then we add here a space, and then specify again translate, just like this. And instead of these values, now here we pass a dollar sign, and inside this, here I'm going to pass x greater of this value, pass a dollar in the object, pass y, both these values. That's it. Now when I save the changes, back to the project. Oops, I think I misspelled something. Yeah, right here it's translate. Save the changes, and now when I move my mouse, you can see we have this movement to this text. We have this beautiful animation to this text. You can notice. Let's take a look at how we can add animation to this title. Now, as you can see in the finished website, when I scroll down, we have this beautiful animation to this title. You can see. Let's create this beautiful animation to this title using GSAP. So I'm going to back to my project, and now minimize this toggle function, minimize all my functions, and right down here, we create one more function. Now I'm going to use this function to add scroll trigger animation to the project element using GSAP. So to do that, I'm going to start with the function, and the function name is animate project. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this function. Here we select a function item, the flex item. So I'm going to say here constant flex items is equal to document dot query selector all. Just out of that, in this double quote here, we need to select the flex item, this one. So in the slide section, we have this flex item. So just copy it and pass that right here. And once we select it, we're going to have an array of flex item inside this variable. Right down here, you have to say flex item dot for each, and inside this function, you can iterate over these items. So call here item, and in the object, you can iterate over the flex items. Now, inside this function right here, I'm going to call the GSAP. So first, we create a GSAP timeline. So say GSAP dot timeline. Now using GSAP timeline, you can synchronize all your animations. So I'm going to use GSAP timelines, and then say here scroll trigger, and then pass your colon, and in the object you specify the scrolling properties of this animation. So first is the trigger. I want to trigger the animation when the item is in the viewport. So we pass here item, this variable, when the flex item is in the viewport. Then we start the animation. I want to specify here where I want to start the animation. I want to start the animation when the top of the element reaches to the 90% of the viewport. And then I'm going to end this animation when the bottom of the element reaches to the 60% of the viewport. Just out of that, here, I'm going to say here scrub Now, if you want to know more about this start and this end property, I have a complete course on the GSAP. You can check out my crash course of GSAP from the link provided in the description. Right down here, I can pass dot from to. Now, this is completely fair that you add here enter. Here you have to say item dot query selector all, and you have to select all the display text. So here pass dot and select all the display text. Scroll down, you can see we have this display text class. So select all the display text class, and right here you have to pass comma, and in the object you can say y. The initial position of the y is -10, and the x value is going to be at 40 pixel. Then you have to specify here rotate. Rotate is going to be -10, and then end this object. So here you pass comma and create one more object, the to position of this element. Let me pass the to position. I want to animate the text from this to this. So let me pass here to position. So y. So let me just copy this, paste it here. Y is going to be -160. X is going to be 640 pixel. Rotate is going to be 0. And then I'm going to add duration. Duration is going to be 1. And ease property. Ease property is going to be forward to out. This is the easing function, right? We pass that. Let me show you the result. When I scroll down, oops, I think I misspelled something. Yeah, I didn't call this function. So let's copy it. And at the top right up here, call here document dot add event listener. And this is type of DOM content load, something like this. And then instead of creating a new function here, I'm going to pass callback function like this. And right inside it, here we call my project animate function. This one, just copy it and specify that right here. That's it. So now when you scroll down, you can see have this beautiful effect. Let me just comment this transition, this one. Now we get the proper effect. You can see. Now just out that, just inside this function, right down here, you can also chain one more animation. So you have to just pass here enter and say dot to something like this. And then copy this statement, paste it here, and then pass here comma and pass an object. And here I'm going to specify just an x value. X value is going to be 420 pixel. So I'm just going to pass 420, pass here duration is going to be 1, and easing function. So I'm going to pass here ease, which is going to be sign out. This is going to be the easing function. And then I'm going to pass here a comma and then pass here minus equal to 0.2. So after 0.2 second, I want to execute this second animation. So this is just a delay of the second animation execution. Just after this, right down here, you have to chain another animation. Let me first show you this animation. Let me save this. And let's scroll down. You can see we can now move this text to the X position. And then at the end, here we pass dot to. Let me copy this, paste it here, pass here comma, Y property. Y is going to be minus 40. X is going to be 320. And duration is going to be 1. And then we pass here is property. Is going to be sign out. That's it. The other changes. So we have this result. Now, if you want, you can align everything on the single line as well. That's upon you. I can arrange and put everything on the single line, just like this. Let me add few more slides just down here to show you the complete result. So back to the index.html. Here is the first flex item. Just copy it, paste it down here. And I'm going to just change this text to escape, something like this. Let me just duplicate this, copy it and paste it down here. Change this text to something like this. Make sure you change this text to both this division tag, otherwise you will get a different result. Just copy it, paste it down here. And I'm going to change this text to like this. Copy this, paste it here. And at the last, I'm going to change this text to Iceland. And just after that, let me save the changes first. Back to the style.css. And as you can see at the top here, we have the first image to this VG image. What you have to do is you have to change all these images and specify different images to the nth child. Here, I'm going to first select the flex as it is. Right down here, we select the flex. And inside that, we have a flex item, as you know. And I'm going to select each item one by one and change its image. So let's select nth child to image flex. And inside that, we have VG image, this one. And we're going to change this background image property. And instead of image 1, now I can select image 2. Let's copy this, paste it here. This became nth child 3 and the image became image 3. Let's copy and paste it again. This became nth child 4 and the image became image 4. Let me copy this, paste it here. And now this became 5 and the image became img 5. That's it. Save the changes. Back to the index.html, save this file. Back to the project. And now when I scroll down, you can see I have all my projects. You can see we have the last animation as well to this display text. At the end, when I scroll down, you can see we have this section just like we have the home page at the bottom. And we also need to add this animation. You can see we have this GSAP animation to this home page. You can see I want to add that to this home page and create a footer for this template. So let's see how to create this. We need to create a footer for this template. When you scroll down, here you have a footer. It just looks like you have a hero section, but with a different text and the contact and the email. So let's see how to create this footer. So let me minimize this. And as you know, the footer is exactly look like the hero section. So why don't we copy this hero section completely and paste that right down here and just change this to footer section. And instead of changing this section into footer, I'm going to leave everything as it is and get rid of this paragraph. And I want to change this text as well. So I'm going to change this text like this and change the h2 heading tag as well. So inside this h2 heading tag, I'm simply going to add contact us, then add a spawn tag, and inside that we have the phone number, and then we have the add, and inside the spawn tag again, I'm going to put the email ID. Now, let me save the changes. Back to the project. When I scroll down, here you can see we have this footer. Now, just out of that, inside my finished website, you can notice we have this stretch GSAP animation to this home section. Let's create this. Back to the script here, just out of this animate project, here we create a comment, something like this, and say add a subtle scrolling effect to the hero section. So we call here a function. The function name is scroll on move. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this function. And here we say GSAP dot to. And this animation is on the hero section. So if we pass here hero section, then we pass here a comma and pass an object here. So the very first thing is we need to specify that this animation works only on the scrolling. When we scroll down, so you have to pass here scroll trigger property, which is going to be trigger on the hero section. So we have here hero section. So the animation start when we have a hero section in the view. Then we start the animation and the bottom of the element reaches to the bottom of the viewport. Then we end the animation when the bottom of the element reaches to the 70% of the viewport. And then we say here scrub 1. Just after that, here we pass a comma and you need to specify here the properties which you want to change. Here we pass y property, the translate y is going to be minus 200. And then I'm going to add a skew property. So I'm just going to say here transform in the double quote skew minus 1 degree and minus 5 degree, something like this. Here we add a comma and say easing function to power to out. And now you have to call this scroll on move right at the top. Just after you call this animate project, something like this. Save the changes. And now when you scroll down, you can see, you have this beautiful effect. But now what you have to do is to have the same effect to the footer as well. You can notice. I don't want this effect to this footer. If you want, you can leave this as it is, but I don't want to add this effect to this footer. So for that, back to the index.html and get rid of this ID right from this footer section. Save the changes. That's it. This will solve that problem. And now you have your site completely ready. I hope you understand how to create this site completely from scratch. If you find anything useful, make sure to press the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe for more videos like this. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one.